Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. Thanks for being here. And I mean that sincerely. This is going to be an interesting one for you guys. I hope you're in the mood for learning, because this is going to be important. During the last several weeks, we've got a series of comments about different types of deaths and what I should cover, what I shouldn't cover, blah de blah de blah. We're going to cover that. Before I get into that, a couple of things that were sent in by people. And I think it's important that you understand how talented you guys are and ladies are. It's unbelievable. Somebody sent me this, and again, I don't like to put names out there. But look at this. This thing lights up. It's very cool. Yeah. Somebody went through all that trouble. Very cool. And now, artistic ability, this should blow you away. Look at this. Done by one of our villagers. That's unbelievable. It's beautiful. And then, they also sent this in. Pretty cool, eh? I like it. Very nice. It will go in a special place. And then another person sent in a Bigfoot playing cards. It says, with different hairy hominoid details on all 52 cards. Paradise Publications, Arcata, California. Well, interesting. And I just heard that we have 1 or 2 spots left on the Bigfoot cruise to go fishing with Angie and I. Hopefully you'll get out there. And then we're going to do one thing on the ship we haven't done before, and that's going to be coming out soon. Now, one of the days when we're at sea, I'm going to do something in the middle of the cruise. No, I'm not going to run around in my bikini underwear and jump in the freezing tub. No, that's not going to happen. That would be offensive. But we're going to do something special. So, what am I going to talk to you about today? When I was doing the research on Missing 411, just people missing in the woods, I started to come across cases where people were, let's say, at a party in the woods, and then nobody saw them leave. And then the next day, people found out that that person disappeared. And then 4 days later, they're found dead and floating in a lake. No explanation, no nothing. The police would say, oh, there's doesn't appear any foul play, nothing to see here, just drowned. Baloney. Okay? Yeah, I was part of that gullible crowd that took a big gulp every time I read that. And after I read it for the 100th time, I said, no, there's much more to this than meets the eye. And I started to drop everything else and did a deep dive on missing people ending up in water. The interesting part about this is that 99.5% of all those cases are men. Why is that? Think about that. Why men? Men are older boys, 18, 19, 20. I call them men. So, let's talk about this. Let's talk about drownings to start with, because that's what these were called. Freshwater drownings. Drowning is a very physical death. When you're in the water and you know death is imminent, you can't breathe. You fight for your life. The people who have no energy suddenly have energy. There's thrashing, Sometimes they're screaming. If anyone's within 100 yards, you know somebody's drowning. There's no doubt. Every ounce of physical force is used to live. Now, I've told this story before, but it's important here to understand this. I'm sorry if I bore you. But when I was a junior in high school, I was offered a job at this swim club as a lifeguard the next year if I got my lifeguard certificate. So I did, went through all the classes, and graduation day, I was a good swimmer. I was a really good swimmer. And I still am. And to pass, you had to go up against the instructor, who was this man about 35 years old, big, and you had to go out and save him. And there were a couple of girls in front of me, and this guy just let them grab him and bring him in. So he says, Dave, there's like 15 people in the class. He goes, Dave, you're next. So I wasn't huge. I was a junior in high school. I was pretty much rail thin. And he's thrashing a little bit in the water, so I go out, I get around to his backside, and I start to move on him. He turns on me and puts all of the force he can onto my head and holds me underwater. And he held me underwater, and I could not break away. And that was back in the days where I didn't think, okay, I should hurt this guy, and I should kick him in the guts and in the gonads and everywhere and just get free. I just kind of thought he would let go. He didn't. By the time he finally let up, I thought I was that close to death. And he had to grab me and push me back up onto the side of the pool, and he stopped everything. And he goes, that's the example, ladies and gentlemen. You see what just happened to Dave? It could happen to any of you. Yeah, he made an example out of me. I was so upset and mad at him, I couldn't even speak. But that was a huge life lesson for me. And it could have saved my life later on down the line by what he did for me. I didn't appreciate it at the time, but damn, I learned a lot. I learned that when you go out to save somebody who's thrashing like that, don't be pretty and friendly and, oh, please turn around. No, you use physical force to take that person under control. Otherwise, they're going to grab you by the head and put you under to keep their head above water. Yes, this happens all the time. And that's what I'm saying. When somebody drowns, it's not peaceful. If somebody just falls in the water, you just don't sink to the bottom. No, that doesn't happen. People fight to stay up. I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of water it is. Now, if you find a young man or a man in water deceased from drowning, you're going to find him 99.9% of the time face down. You're going to find women face up. If you find a man face up, take a deep breath, pay close attention, something's not right. And there's a lot of the cases I've worked where these men have been found face up. Most of the time it can't be explained, but that's just the way it is. Nobody goes in the water and dies without a fight, unless they're comatose. Missing 411, a sobering coincidence. I keep talking about this book. And I'm not trying to sell copies to you. I'm trying to explain where we're going with this. In the book, I outline cases in 25 states. And all of the drownings match a certain profile. Also cases in Canada, in Alberta, BC, New Brunswick, Ontario, Quebec. And then I also added cases in here, United Kingdom, France, and Spain. Now, what are those profile points for the book? Number one is nobody sees the victims enter the water. pretty peculiar. The majority of the time, nobody sees the person leave the group they're with. Bunch of guys in a bar, sitting around drinking. Everyone gets ready to go. Hey, where's Billy Bob? He's not here. He must have left to go to the hotel. They go to the hotel. The next day, the guy's not here. They report him missing. That's kind of the way it always goes. But nobody ever sees the person leave. And I'm talking about parties at the beach. I'm talking about bar scenes. I'm talking about dinners. Whatever it is. Nobody does. Most of the time, if it's a young man, he's a high-performing student, athlete. If he's a little older than that, he's a high-performing businessman, athlete. The date range started for this book in 1928 in Massachusetts until today. And I wrote about missing from 62 different schools. Now, how did it fall out as far as numbers? Wisconsin had the most with 11. New York 6, Minnesota 6, Pennsylvania 6, Illinois 4, Massachusetts 4. Let's talk about overseas. United Kingdom, Manchester, UK. They've had a series of young men disappear into the canals of Manchester. And they had so many, they dubbed it the Manchester Pusher. Now again, nobody ever sees these guys fall in. Nobody says they were pushed, but they called it the Pusher. And many times they're found in water so shallow you could just stand up. Which gets to my point that obviously these people are just not going in under normal conditions. They have to be going in comatose, unconscious. In the vast majority of the times, there's alcohol present in the victim. Now I want to implore upon you to understand, it's not alcohol that's causing the deaths. It's not alcohol that's causing the people to go in the water. It's not alcohol that's stopping them from fighting. But alcohol is in their system. The biggest twist to all of this that I've spoken about many times is GHB. George Henry Boy, GHB. It's produced in the body in minute quantities, really, really small. On a standard drug screening of 24 different drugs that coroners test for, GHB is not on that list. It should be, but it's not. Now, people always ask, well, why isn't it on the list? Well, every drug you test for costs more money. Autopsies are expensive. There's a lot more deaths now, a lot more autopsies. Jurisdictions don't want to spend the extra money. They don't see the rationale. I told you before that there was a coroner that tried to get me to talk at a coroner's conference. They wouldn't let me talk. That's fine. Whatever. I could have told them some interesting things. So how did GHB get found? Well, some families didn't like the autopsies that were done. They didn't think they were very thorough. So these families paid, I think, $2,200 to have a private autopsy done, and they screened for 100 drugs. And on one of the first cases, they found these enormously high levels of GHB in the student's body. I mean, like off the chart high. Nobody could figure out how it got into his system. And again, nobody saw him leave the building. And then the other weird part about this, many times when people are at a bar, and I could speak just to winter because this applies to winter, there's snow all along the banks of the river. And nobody ever can find tracks from the bar to the water. So nobody can understand how the person even got to the water, because they should have been able to be identified moving in that direction. Now, there's one story I write in the book, pretty famous story. Young man out drinking at some bars, disappears. Nobody knows where he went. 6 hours later, he wakes up. This is in the middle of winter. It's like 20 degrees outside. Everything's frozen except this river. The river temperature is probably 28 degrees. He wakes up in the middle of the river flowing downstream. And he said, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know how I got there. But I knew right away, I better get out. And by the good grace of God, this guy swims to the bank. And what's right there? A hospital. Crawls up onto the bank. Crawls his way up into the hospital. And is taken care of and lives. He was interviewed. He says, I don't remember going in the water. I don't remember leaving the building. I don't know how I got in the water. I don't know why I woke up. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, something's going on. And why am I very cautious with these cases? When you've looked at enough cases like I have to know what's coming, and trust me, Riley Strain's case in Nashville, I had the same feelings. Those big name cases, we hear 1,000 emails from you guys about it, but those big cases that are on national news, yeah, of course we're gonna hear them right away, and we're gonna be paying attention, and we kind of know how they're gonna end up. But I have to also respect the parents. Family. I'm not going to make a determination that someone's dead when they haven't even found them yet, or that they're in the river and they haven't been found. I'm not doing that. You and I may know, but I'm not doing it. The other reason I'm not doing it is there's so many trolls out there. They're just waiting to jump me and claim I'm an idiot and make accusations against me that I don't know what I'm doing. If I say somebody's in the water and they find the person in the water and there's a bullet in the back of their head, or they've been poisoned, or there's a lot of reasons you can go into the water and die. Most of them don't make any sense, but sometimes people are found with bullet holes in them in rivers and lakes. Sometimes they're poisoned, etc. Now, all the ones in here and the ones you and I talk about, obviously not the case. But I'm going to be very cautious until the coroner comes out with a cause of death. Now, that cause of death is important. But also, I want to know, when was the time of death? As an example, somebody's seen outside a bar walking down the sidewalk at midnight on a Friday night. And the coroner says, yeah, they didn't die until Monday at noon. Well, where were they for 2 days? Right? Those are the kind of things that are important. What was in their stomach? Also important. If their stomach was empty and they were gone for 2 days, well, they didn't have anything to eat for 2 days, so was somebody holding them somewhere? These are all important questions. Just like you guys asking, well, let's look at the bottom of the feet. And somebody's found without shoes. Same thing. So that's why I'm cautious on these. I may drive you guys crazy that I'm not saying a bunch of stuff about it, but trust me, we're watching it. Now this next case, it really cut me up. Meaning, I feel this dad's pain in a huge way. I'll explain it to you. The young man who disappeared was Carson Hughes, 18 years old, went missing March 15th, 2024 at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He lived in Osgood, Indiana, and he was a senior at Jac-Cen-Del High School in Osgood. He was a three-letter athlete: soccer, baseball, and basketball. And there were 72 students in his senior class. He had plans on attending Purdue University in the fall. School administrators made a statement I don't hear very often about anyone. They stated, everybody liked Carson. Carson was friendly. He was loved by all. How often do you hear that about anybody? That hit me dead center. Because that really does describe a majority of the people we talk about here on Missing 411. And then all of you get upset, well, you know, what about the homeless? What about the drug addicts? I'm just telling you, I'm giving you the facts. Now here's the part about Carson that really hit my soul. He had a business. He was 18 years old, senior in high school, three-letter athlete, but he had a business. He owned his own wildlife photography business. And friends, I'm saying it right here. That young man was a world-class photographer, still and video. And I know because I've been around world-class people filming my movies. Carson, world-class. March 15th, Carson told his dad he was going to drive to Versailles State Park, about 5 miles south of his house, and he was going to shoot wildlife. This location was about 40 miles west of Cincinnati. Been a location he'd gone to many times before to shoot wildlife. His dad was a good dad. He said, Carson, call me, check in, just let me know you're okay. Carson missed a call in. And his dad made a couple calls. And one of them was to Department of Natural Resources in Indiana. And he told him to go out by the boat ramp at the lake and check on his son. So he lived in Osgood. Here was the high school that he went to school at, just north end of Osgood. Here's the city of Versailles. And right there in the little yellow, it's where the boat ramp is for the reservoir. Now here's a photograph. Hopefully you can see it. The contrast isn't real good. But this is the boat ramp. The reservoir, the dam. Can you see the water through here? The city of Versailles is over here. This is where he was at that boat ramp. Now this area, very wild. Lots of gorgeous wildlife there. I could see why Carson loved going there. Well, at 1:30, his dad calls him in as a missing person. The lake is 230 acres in size. DNR gets there, and they find his car parked right adjacent to the boat ramp. Keys are in the car. And they know Carson can't be far away because his tripod is set up right near the car, and his kayak is in the water right at the boat ramp, maybe a little distance away. A peculiar setting, to say the least. Nobody else is around. His tripod has the camera on it. They've never stated if it was rolling or if they got any pictures off it. That would be interesting. But by 2 p.m., 30 minutes later, they had crime scene tape up around that area, and they were calling for search and rescue. They couldn't find him. Again, nobody sees anything. Son misses a call in. Water. Athlete. That night they did start the search. Worked it till dark. Found nothing. March 16th, the next day. They did exactly what search and rescue should be doing. They put a boat on the lake with side scan sonar. Thing doesn't miss anything. 150 people from the community checked in to do the search. It got so many people that DNR said, stop, don't send us any more, we can't handle it. Now here's the thing. So many people love this young man. Everybody wanted to find him. Everyone wanted to play a part in this. That's another thing that just hit my core. Well, they put police dogs out, helicopters, boats with sonar. They put out their dive team, and they had a whole bunch of ground pounders grid searching the area around it. They started at 6 a.m., went to 7 p.m., and they called it. They didn't find anything. And in that 12, 13 hours of searching, that side scan should have shown something if it was there. I've worked with that side scan. I've seen how it works. I've worked with the best in the business on that. In fact, if you've watched my movies, you've seen the people we highlighted there. March 17th. Massive search. Starts at 7 o'clock. His mom and dad are there. His mom is a personal trainer, RN paramedic type. Dad works in the banking business. Friends, let me tell you, this family having to go home the night without their son, I don't know how you could sleep, and I'm sure they didn't. But the things that are going through their mind are devastating. Here they have a son that they've done everything right by. Personality-wise, grade-wise. Oh yeah, in fact, some of the things stated that he had the best grades on his sports team. And he was going to go to Purdue University. This kid was going places. And he had talent. You do everything right. And bad things just happen sometimes. Same way with Ben. March 17th, 6:50 at night. A boat out on that lake searching finds his body. They pronounced him dead at the scene. They turned the body over to the coroner, and just the other day, the coroner indicated that he died by freshwater drowning. One of the articles said, Carson felt closer to God when he was in the wilderness. I feel that parent's pain. I feel it. So let me review something. Carson Hughes was a world-class individual. He filmed bald eagles, ducks, wildlife, just gorgeous scenes. Perfect color balance, clarity. I mean, I couldn't do that good. Now, pay attention. He had an Instagram account. Carson Hughes, CARSON HUGHES _photography on Instagram. Carson always dreamed of having 10,000 followers. Go push that over the brink for his parents. Everybody jump on that. Carson Hughes _photography on Instagram. So sad for his parents. They're going to have a services for him on March 25th. School's going to have a big thing for him. I wish I understood this better. I kick myself in the butt all the time. This drowning thing with schools and people and young adults, it's not every school that's near the water either. If it was, we'd have double the number. It's very indiscriminate. But it's very uniform in how it happens. Now with Carson, they said he'd freshwater drowning, but I'm sure they're going to do toxicology on him, and I'm sure that they're not going to do a GHB on him. One thing I wish I knew, I'd like to know how well he swam. And if I was his parents, I'd demand GHB be tested. But there's no way I'm going to call his parents. Those poor people they're in grief. They need to be in grief counseling right now. They need to be holding each other's hands. Like I said, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for your support. If you guys live near Osgood, Indiana, go to the services, support those parents. Tell them that you've looked at their son's Instagram page and tell them how talented he was and how those images will live forever. Paulides out.